Heroic action order. If the opponents in the same phase have weapons of equal range or reach, then defer to the heroic action order to decide the sequence of action. Player characters, full-fledged NPCs, and legendary creatures act first in the same battle phase. The GM may consider precedence for certain weapons or fighting styles if it would grant an obvious advantage. That's where narrative play comes in. Otherwise, a random initiative roll is used. Exceptional creatures act second in the same battle phase. Standard creatures act third, and minor creatures act fourth. Those of the surprise. Getting surprised by any kind of sneaky attack in this game calls for an opposed roll, usually involving competence and perception. There are two levels of surprise. First is simple surprise, where those taken unaware lose a full round of attacks but can use active defense points. Some characters have heightened ability in stealthy actions, and such opponents who succeed in such a roll twice, once for moving silently and the other for the sneak attack, win total surprise over their foes. Defenders who suffer total surprise lose all actions and cannot use any active defense points in the first round of combat. And that's nasty. Attacking. Step 1. Attacker rolls to determine potential harm. Normally, only one attack per creature is permitted. The resulting threat points are determined by adding the result of the attack rolls. Step 2. Defenders using a shield subtract 1 to 3 threat points, depending on the shield size, before defense points are depleted. The defense points must be above 0 to take advantage of shield damage reduction, because otherwise it's assumed you're not really able to defend yourself too well if you're completely out of your active defense pool points. The defender subtracts the attacker's threat points from his active defense pool first. If the score is depleted to 0 and exceeded, then go to the next step, which is step 3. Defenders wearing armor then subtract a random die roll from the remaining threat points, not before, with the rank of the die dependent on armor type. A d4 for hide, d6 for leather, d8 for chain, d10 for plate, etc. Any remaining harm or threat points depletes the passive hit points, causing actual bodily damage. Defense points are hit points divided into self-protective actions or harm mitigation and all the ways the character can endure harm. They are organized into the active and passive defense scores, each a plate of hit points. Active defense points represent actions like parrying with a weapon or dodging and are fully refreshed after escaping or ending combat, generally a minute to catch one's breath. Passive defense points. Passive defense points recover slowly, 1 hit point per day of rest or 2 hit points per day of total bed rest, unless aided by magic or healing ability. The passive defense includes the physical body, including the ability to withstand fatigue and some degree of spiritual resilience. It is the last layer of defense against damage, aka threat points, when all else fails. Spirit points are used to gain an inspired advantage in combat, to fuel a complex magical feat or power, or quickly recuperate during battle through prayer or meditation. Cast spells if lacking membership in a spellcasting character class even. Invoke impromptu spells outside of the practitioner's known spell repertoire. Aid in casting powerful spells or activate new magic items. Many, many uses for spirit points. Healing and dying. Fortitude is a measure of how much physical punishment a character can take before dropping unconscious or dying. A character is unconscious when reaching a 0 passive defense score, but can survive damage up to a negative number equal to Fortitude's max value. So a PC with basic Fortitude of D8 will die at a -8, and so on. Characters may roll their Fortitude and Endurance every round to keep going and avoid falling unconscious. In summary of the order of defenses, shields. Note that shields provide damage reduction before any active defense points are depleted, but only if that score is above 0. Shield damage reduction. Subtract the points from the attacker's threat points depending on the kind of shield held. Active defense. The attacker's threat points reduce the target's active defense score. If the active defense pool score is not exceeded, stop here. Otherwise, armor. Armor can negate the number of threat points penetrating the target's passive defense. Roll for armor damage reduction if the target wears any armor, obviously. You have hide, leather, chain, or D10 for plate armor. Passive defense. Threat points penetrating armor reduce the active defense pool. The character is unconscious at 0 passive defense, but can survive damage up to a negative number equal to the basic rank max value of Fortitude. Movement in the Eldritch RPG is usually abstract. Players describe such movement as necessary, while the GM tracks how often it will affect actions and timing. Occasionally, judging initiative and distance becomes important for tactical or dramatic situations. In that case, maximum movement is determined by characters' or creatures' agility. The following determines how far a character or other humanoid may move and around and how it affects attacks. So here you see there's some basic calculations for that. And that all comes down to a base move of 22 yards per round at a D4 rank, up to 30 yards per round with a D12 rank in agility. The agility being a specialization of prowess. And then you would add +1 yard per die rank of the agility specialization. So in those cases when you need to do calculations of movement, it's all there. The rules are there.